Enter Pyongyang, the capital of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or as it is more commonly known, the DPRK or North Korea. North Korea, and by extension Pyongyang, have both garnered heightened attention from Western media, especially in the past few years, with various threats arising from the state. However, we must first understand the historical context of the nation in order to understand the capital and country today. Situated on the Korean peninsula, both North and South Korea were once a unified Korea. Beginning in 1910, the Japanese annexed Korea as an outright colony and held on to the peninsula until the end of World War II. After Japan's surrender, Allies divided the peninsula along the 38th parallel, with the USSR taking control of the north and the US taking control of the south. The Cold War followed closely soon after World War II, leading both sides of the peninsula to become hostile, and on June 25, 1950, the North Korean side, backed by the USSR and China, invaded the south, attempting to take control of the entire peninsula, with the US and other allies soon coming to South Korea's aid in what would become known as the Korean War. Ultimately, both sides settled back to the 38th parallel and created a demilitarized zone, which still marks the border between the North and South today. Following the Armistice Agreement of 1953, the two Koreas diverged radically from each other in almost all ways imaginable. The North was heavily influenced by the USSR, with Joseph Stalin personally editing the nation's constitution. The North developed into an authoritarian state, much like the Soviet Union, under the leadership of one supreme leader, and developed strategies of self-reliance and state-run economies. With the support of the Soviet Union and China, North Korea was as prosperous as the South for a few decades after 1953, but after the collapse of the Soviet Union, China was the remaining supporter of the North, and South Korea had long overtaken the North. According to Korean mythology, the city was founded in 1122 BC, and there has been evidence of humans in the region for over 2,000 years. Throughout its existence, Pyongyang has experienced domination and incursion from both the Chinese and Japanese. However, the Pyongyang that we know today is one that was built almost ground up following the Korean War and is much different than its pre-1950 self. In almost every aspect of the global city, from foreign relations to its economy to politics, Pyongyang is not like those megacities of its immediate vicinity, such as Seoul, Tokyo, Shanghai, and Beijing. Instead, it is a masterpiece of branding for a regime that tightly monitors its own citizens and what outsiders are able to see. Pyongyang is North Korea's showcase city to the world, as almost all journalists and foreigners are concentrated within the confines of the city. As it has come to be known, eludes almost anyone who tries to get to know it further. And its capital city is its crown jewel, the embodiment of the North Korean socialist experiment, with impeccably clean streets, buildings of all colors and shapes, grandiose hotels, wide boulevards, rows and rows of high-rise apartment buildings, magnificent monuments, and extravagantly decorated metro stations. One gets the impression the nation abounds with resources and progresses normally like any other global city in the 21st century. There are functioning highway systems, tram and bus infrastructure, not to mention the metros, so there's an initial semblance of normal city life. However, Pyongyang might be the single greatest example of city branding in the world, produced by a perfect combination of authoritarian rule, widespread use of propaganda, and a yearning to show the world, through an emphasis on Pyongyang, that the DPRK is not what Western media has portrayed it to be, an impoverished, dilapidated nation.
While the city's accessibility is limited to the vast majority of the world, Pyongyang has become the epicenter of the standoff between the United States and North Korea as the U.S. attempts to halt nuclear proliferation. The city has played host to several military parades, which the streets of Pyongyang are perfectly suited for, and videos like these are broadcast to the rest of the world to showcase the country's military strength, which is another example of their branding. With a population of about 3.23 million, it's the largest city in North Korea. Like the rest of the country, it is extremely ethnically homogeneous, with nearly all residents holding Korean lineage. It's arguably the most ethnically homogeneous city and nation in the world. However, while ethnically homogeneous, the city is certainly not economically or intellectually homogeneous. The individuals who are even allowed to live in the capitals are a select few. Apartments are allocated to government-employed scientists, families of diplomats, or others whom the regime deem important for the nation. Therefore, we see government sponsorship of an intellectual and economic elite within the capital, a demographic that is most certainly different from the rest of the nation in rural areas and less populated cities. Much of the appearance of Pyongyang is a well-planned facade, from the buildings to the stores. The Ryongyong Hotel is a perfect example of this. With a sleek and futuristic exterior that was completed only a few years ago, it is the most flashy and most recognizable landmark of Pyongyang, and arguably the most distinct structure in all of the city. However, inside is nothing but a hollow shell. This leaked image that the regime of North Korea does not want the world to see highlights the fact that the aspects of the city life are literally facades to the rest of the world. In the 1960s, Kim Il-sung called for rethinking the architectural strategy of Pyongyang, and the government collectively developed a 5-feature focus plan, consisting of expanding major boulevards and high-rise residential buildings along them, large-scale civic and cultural facilities, symbolic statues and squares, and convenient facilities directly targeted at tourists and foreigners to showcase the city's prosperity. Although the North Korean government attempted to diminish migration to Pyongyang, it couldn't fully halt illegal immigration from occurring and its rapid urbanization, leading to housing shortages as a result of the denser population. Similarly, in 432 Park Avenue, the wealthiest citizens purchase apartments to park capital but do not actually live in the spaces. Therefore, the building serves as a facade for a living space that is actually not conducive for habitation, as only 104 apartments are available to live in, but only for the super rich. The Ryongyong Hotel serves as a facade for the possibility of accommodating hundreds of guests in its rooms, as a global city should, but in reality no one can be accommodated. North Korea's GDP was estimated to be around $40 billion in 2015, with agriculture accounting for 25.4%, industry accounting for 41%, and services accounting for 33.5%, according to a 2017 estimate. Pyongyang centers its urban policy on constructing the city on a unit district system, which combines industrial and residential sectors, so that residents are able to both consume and produce their products. The city was structured in the area across from the central administration facilities, meaning the comprised areas resulted in focused directionality for city expansion. While the government continues to invest larger portions of its financial resources towards the expansion of Pyongyang, workers and residents in rural and agricultural areas are given less attention for expansion, resulting in fewer resources in those areas, including schools, supermarkets, and hospitals, which results in government-prompted inequality. As future research questions, we will focus on what the significance of facade buildings are and the message such projects, such as the recently constructed and futuristic-appearing Murray Winged Tower, are trying to convey. What specific urban policies continue to reinforce the economic and social inequities between Pyongyang and rural residents?